What's up, Badger fans? They got another linebacker. Are we done at that spot? What does it mean for the rest of people, the rest of players at that position on the roster? What kind of player is Jaheim Thomas? Let's talk about this. This feels like a big get for the Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Badger fans? Never a dull moment in the linebacker room for Wisconsin, apparently. The staff went out and got another. It is, depending on how you kind of classify them, maybe you got that's, I think, the fifth linebacker in this group, right? That they brought in this cycle. Now, different levels of eligibility. So Jahiem Thomas coming in, standout defender at Arkansas last year, 6'4", 240 pounds, led Arkansas with tackles, had 90 total tackles, 6.5 for loss, 3.5 sacks. In the SEC, like he was Arkansas's one of their best defenders in a real conference, has real experience, previously played with Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. That's something I want to focus on right off the jump. I remember talking about this last year with the guys like Quincy Burrows, with the guys like Renfro, Huber, Will Pauling, those type of players. If a staff is bringing in somebody they previously had in their locker room, I mean, that they really know that kid, right? There's a much lower risk with a player like that because they're basically recruiting him a second time, right? They had him once and they liked him enough, they're going to get him again. And for the most part, it felt like the hit rate with the Cincinnati guys was pretty good. I mean, Renfro was hurt, but you saw him in the bowl game. He looked great. Pauling was our best transfer. Huber played a very sizable role. We saw Quincy Burrows getting action. And some of the other guys were younger that they brought over, but it feels like there's a higher hit rate for the guys that they brought over with them from Cincinnati. Well, here's a linebacker that played for Luke Fickell at Cincinnati, transferred to the SEC to Arkansas, was probably their best linebacker. And then, so it's a really good get. Like, he's a starter. You're penciling him in right away. Good athlete, probably going to play on the inside, has real experience against top-level competition. Let's take a little bit of a look at social media, see what some people out there have to say, specifically from kind of an Arkansas standpoint. So this one is from Easton May. Jahiem Thomas' departure was reportedly due to misuse by Arkansas's defensive staff from what was originally planned when he transferred to the Hogs. It is expected that Thomas will join his former coach at Luke Fickell. So a little bit more on this one. It sounds like, so at the end of the year, Jahiem Thomas, his playing time went down a little bit. And it sounds like there's a podcast out there called the Woo Pig Podcast, which has some insider sources, some credibility, according to Arkansas fans. And it sounds like Jahiem Thomas was frustrated that he was denied the ability to get to 100 tackles. Like, he was kind of taken out of the game, taken out of the rotation as Arkansas's defense struggled down the stretch, finished with 90 tackles. Sounds like he was kind of pissed that he didn't get an opportunity to get to 100. 100 is a big number. Like, that's a real number for a linebacker. So it sounds like there was some mistrust, communication issues somewhere along the lines. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know, but that's from Easton May. This is from Rico. Arkansas linebacker Jahiem Thomas back in the portal. This is a former 4-star player that stayed home and played at Cincinnati, then transferred to Arkansas. I think he's NFL caliber and every team should be after him. This is from Tim Adams. Not sure what Jahiem Thomas might want to return to his hometown, but he would look awfully good in a Nike Bearcats uniform. He's a stud. And then from Rabid Hawk fan, Hawks just lost Jahiem Thomas. Big loss with the exclamation point. Yeah, this is a big get for Wisconsin. They have more than adequately revamped and fixed. Well, I don't know if fixed. Let's not go too far, right? We got to see how it works together. But they have addressed the linebacker room and then some. You know, we went into portal season thinking linebacker was a big need. Well, it turns out the coaching staff agreed. They said, yeah, it is, and we're gonna get after that. Let's get some of your comments. Michael B says, "Let's go." Michael B also says, "This ensures no Tackett Curtis." I'd be stunned if Tackett Curtis came at this point. From both standpoints, you don't need another linebacker. I want to get into it in a second. I'm not even sure you needed like 5 linebackers. Now maybe this is a case of just Jahiem Thomas. We already got 4, and Thomas is just too good to pass up, so we're gonna take him. He's a 1-year guy, right? So this is not somebody. Like a guy like Sebastian Cheeks, for example, has multiple years of eligibility. That is a maybe instant impact guy, but also a depth guy down the stretch. Jahiem Thomas is coming in for 1 year. He's coming in to play, to build NFL film, and then leave. So this is a 1-year guy, but I think we're good at linebacker now. I think that does close the door on Tackett. Bo says you can never have enough stud linebackers. Robert Sorson says, let's go. Just got done with my meeting. What's up, Rob? Derek says, are we going to rotate linebackers? Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to, because none of these transfers are coming in to sit necessarily. Now, competition is great, depth is great. You're bringing in 5 guys. Like Lowry's going to play, Pius is going to play. Pius has to play, right? He's out of eligibility. Now maybe Galvin kind of sits a little bit. Sebastian maybe sits. Jahiem Thomas is absolutely going to play. Like, you're not bringing in a guy that led an SEC team in tackles and has 1 year of eligibility left to not play. You're looking at one of your starters right here. Let's be super frank and honest. Jahiem Thomas isn't coming to Wisconsin to not start. He's starting, period. Like, this is one of your starters. And that's not a bad thing. Like, he's a good player. This is a really good SEC linebacker. Now, he did have some tackling issues last year. Badger fans, you might want to cover your ears, close your eyes, because of the tackling issues we had on defense per Pro Football Focus. Not the greatest tackler. There were some Arkansas fans that grumbled a little bit there, but he's an athletic upgrade. Playing on the inside, he is a much more athletic, fast player than we had on last year's team, and the athleticism is just much better on this group. Eric Thompson says, nothing against Thomas. However, I'd want more offensive linemen after their horrible performance on that last drive in the bowl game. Man, we need some other spots in the portal, and this is a good time to get into it. Eric's point is a good time to get into it. They really overhauled linebacker. I hope that we haven't invested so much into this spot that we're unable to fill some of the other holes, right? I mentioned it before. It's almost like transfer portals, almost like going to the grocery store. Like, I'm going and I need a turkey, or I need a chicken, but I'm going through it. I'm like, well, I could use some cookies too, and I could get a little bit better in the cracker aisle. So I'm kind of pulling stuff off that can make me better. But there's real big needs on this team still, and you got to hope and trust that there's enough resources to pull those other spots, because as good as Jahiem Thomas is, it feels like a bit of a luxury grab at this point after grabbing 4 other linebackers. And there are some guys on the roster, like Christian Allegro is going to play next year. There's some other guys on the roster too. You know, you brought in a Heiberger, a Lafayette. You know, there's other dudes on this roster. It feels like 5 is maybe a tick over excessive. Now, if they make you better, they make you better, but there is a opportunity cost for everything you do in life, right? The amount of time you put into something means it's time not put into something else, right? For every minute you spent recruiting one of these linebackers, that's a minute you're maybe not scouring for a defensive lineman or investing in that. For every $1 of NIL that goes into one of these spots, that's $1 of NIL that doesn't go into somewhere else. Now, listen, I'm not saying that you turn down a really good player if he can make you better, because I think that's what happened in this case. I think you have a good player who's willing to come on board that makes you better. But now we need a defensive lineman. Now we need a few other spots. I think we're good at linebacker. I am very excited to see what this linebacker core looks like next year. Corey says, big time get, proven guy, position to need. I think the proven thing is really important, right? You're getting somebody that you know has played at the very highest levels of college football. He's not going to be intimidated. He's played in big time venues against big time opponents. He's coming in with a ton of experience and accolades. Former 4-star high school recruit. Like, this is a big get. This is from that Woo Pig Suey podcast, who talked a little bit about Jahiem Thomas. They said the one guy in the linebacker core that was always there, never hurt, played good football. They went on to say, man, you played a lot. Why did you leave us? I didn't put that part in there, but they had high praise for him. It sounds like Arkansas fans, I looked at one of their message boards. It's not the typical sour grapes. We don't need him. We're fine. A lot of them said that's a big loss. You know, he was a big part of that defense and somebody they were counting on next year. They've lost several linebackers. They were counting on Thomas to come back and really be one of their standouts. So I think you got an anchor. I think you got an anchor piece for this defense that the coaching staff knows they're comfortable with. You just got to wonder, A, what it does to maybe all the other portal guys coming in. Does it kind of frustrate people who thought maybe they were coming in with more playing time? And then you got to really turn your sights onto other spots on the roster right now, because there are some big holes still to fill here. Let's get into a couple more comments. Robin Sorensen says, athletes. Yep. Zach says, just give us all the linebackers. Let's see. Bo says they went toe-to-toe with LSU with the players they have, and they're getting upgrades everywhere. Can't wait for next season. That feels like an optimistic post from Bo. I feel like I'm missing something. Like, I have to read in between the subtext there. R. Shower says, this is crazy in volume and quality. Can they find 2 wideouts? So what our portal needs still, right? Let's talk about that next on Locked On Badgers as we continue talking about this really good linebacker pickup for Wisconsin. But first, a couple of quick breaks for the show. The first one over at Gametime. Gametime is the number one source for any type of ticket you're trying to buy, right? And I've talked about it before. entertainment, concerts, comedy, sports, whatever it is, go to Gametime, find the tickets you want at the best prices, last minute deals, flash sales. It's all there. Plus, you get pictures of the seats before you buy the tickets. So you're not going to get there and sit behind like a post or a pole. You have great sight lines if that's what you want. Whatever you want, you can find it on Gametime. And I'm not a big logistics guy. I don't really plan. That whiteboard behind me with those lines, those boxes, that was one attempt at planning out my day. It has not gone according to that whiteboard. So my point is, with Gametime, I don't need to plan that stuff out. Just if I want to go somewhere and do something, I click Gametime, buy the tickets, and I'm good. I don't have to wait. I don't have to plan. I get last minute flash sales. Gametime is the best place for all your tickets. Right now, snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is the best source for all your sports betting needs, for everybody out there who wants to put money on the Phoenix Suns to win the NBA Finals, who wants to put money on Brock Purdy to win the Super Bowl. This is your opportunity to do that. Join me in those ventures. Let's make money together. And when we make money together, we'll celebrate together. That's what FanDuel's there for, making money on the Niners and the Suns. Go there. They have all the teasers, spreads, parlays you could possibly want. Simple, easy, quick payouts. And new customers, you bet $5 and you get $150 in bonus bets. Just like that. That's a great offer for new customers. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the NFL. All right, let's keep talking about this. Let's get more comments in here, though. Let's get your thoughts on this. Is anybody else worried, kind of like I am, that we've maybe loaded up a lot? It sounds silly, right? You've overloaded at linebacker. But just remember, you can't get everybody, and there are resource limits and time limits here. Let's go to Justin. Just says, let's go. I love it. Bo Dragon, this is a good comment. Competition at linebacker leads to angry special teams players. Yeah, linebackers are great special teams guys. These are coverage guys. These are punt coverage guys, kickoff coverage guys. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I think athleticism across the board is better. And when athleticism across the board is better, your special teams units are obviously better. So that's a really good point. Christian says, I love this move. I wonder if Fickell thinks the receiver room is adequate enough. Brian Smith is scaring me with his comments. Listen, Brian Smith is a truth sayer. He was the dude on last year's show that said this team's a 7-5 roster. And I tried to tell him I was way wrong, right? I said, I don't know, man. Look at the schedule. Look at the transfers. He said, no, you have a 7-5 roster. And he was dead right. And if you caught the Brian Smith show, he said, y'all need a receiver. It's not good enough yet. And I think he's right. I don't think the receiver room is good enough. I think there's reasons for optimism. Like you watch that bowl game and I think it could be better than last year, but the receiver room is missing a dude. It's missing a big physical outside receiver. Michael B nails it. Need a boundary receiver. I think you absolutely need that guy. A, to unlock Van Dyke, but B, to take pressure off the other guys. So a Tretch, if any, doesn't have to be the dude, right? They can settle into their roles. It's like having an ace. Well, you're not going to pick up an ace receiver probably in the portal, but if you have a better pitcher at the top of your baseball rotation, it pushes everybody down a slot and it makes them better. I think they're still missing that guy in the receiver room. Badger Bournemouth says, just don't want Allegro to be left out of starting. See, this is where it starts to get tricky, right? You brought in 5 transfers at linebacker. A guy like Lowry's coming in to start. A guy like, maybe not Cheeks, but like that's a guy who could have gone a lot of places. Thomas is coming in to start. We were kind of, I felt like grooming Allegro for a starting spot. And then if those guys are their starters, then what about Galvin? What about Pius? It starts to get a little wonky, and you have to be really good at managing egos, which I think Fickell is. I think he's a very competent coach in that aspect, but it does get a little tricky. Brian Shetty says 90 tackles is not a bad tackler, maybe not a great tackler, but you do not get 90 being bad. I know, just reading the Arkansas feedback. Listen, I'm not going to sit here, Brian, and proclaim to be a Thomas expert. I didn't watch his game, but when you see Arkansas fans talk about him a little bit, that was their one comment. Not a great tackler. So I'll dive into the film more, see if I can dig into it more. But that was the feedback. Like they like him. They thought it was a loss. They definitely wanted to keep Jahiem Thomas in Arkansas Razorback uniform, but they did say the tackling's a little suspect. All right, let's keep going here. Cody says, I'm guessing they got him for the pass rush, 6'4", definitely outside linebacker. He is quick and a great tackler. He will help. I think he's an inside guy, Cody, from what I've seen so far. I think they plan on playing him inside. Now, I think we are in a world of college football where all that stuff's a little versatile, right? Like maybe he's inside and then he kicks outside on pass rushing situations. Although I think on the outside, it's going to be Lowry and maybe a guy like I don't know. It's going to be super interesting, right? There's so many bodies. Now you have to really think about who goes where. I don't know. I'm interested. Zach Petterman says maybe Allegro moves outside. DA Wolf says, are any of the linebackers big enough to play edge defensive lineman? I don't think so, DA. I had the same thought. I was like, maybe one of these guys can and maybe on a passing down, a guy could kick down a little bit, put his hand in the dirt. But I don't think any of these guys are like hybrid defensive linemen. I don't think so. Bo says, Kekahuna, Vinny, Anthony, give me hope for next year. I do too, but they still need a dude. Like, they still definitely need a dude in that receiver room. And I think it's Robert Sorson says, clearly Ryan didn't get a new camera for Christmas. The camera focuses as well as Ryan plans. Yeah, it's true. I did look for cameras, though. Let's see. Eric Thompson says, remember, please gamble responsibly. Always true with the FanDuel stuff. Whatever you do it responsibly. Whatever you do in life. I want to keep everybody safe and happy. So do whatever you got to do there. Cold Stone says, Jake Chaney can't feel too happy about the complete overhaul of his room. Yeah. And I'm the high guy on Chaney. I know people saw the LSU game and saw Chaney miss a bunch of tackles in the backfield. I saw the LSU game and saw our most athletic linebacker, Chaney, getting penetration and getting into the backfield, right? I think the tackling can be cleaned up. I think he has unique stuff. His dad's at Colorado. I talked to his dad on last year's show. It wouldn't shock me if Chaney maybe left. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of bodies coming in. Chaney's the type of guy who's going to scrap for playing time, but his dad is at Colorado. I like him. I would prefer Chaney on this team, but with all these linebackers coming in, it's going to be tough, and people are going to leave. I'm not going to speculate on who, but you look at the depth chart, you have guys that have been on the roster for a couple years, an Aiden Vaughn, a Tyler Jansey, Brian Sanborn. Like, it just is what it is. There's a bunch of new bodies coming into those spots. Those guys are going to have to look at their roles on this team and decide what's best for them too. So you're going to see movement on this linebacker group, 100%. Let's see. Patrick Minahan says, makes me wonder how we went 12-0 in 2017 with mediocre receivers. We had a great defense and a better running game. And we didn't have the schedule we have next year. Like, that was a really good team, but that defense was salty. And that defensive line was better. Those linebackers were better. Their running game was better. That offensive line was better. That tight end room was probably better, I have to think. It was a better, and that schedule was weaker. Not than this year's team, but definitely the next year's team. Mm-hmm. Let's see. All right, let's start to wrap it up there. I am still bugged out by this confident and optimistic Bo Dragon. I almost feel like he's trolling me a little bit. Ryan Bliss says, I still want Tackett. As much as I always agree with Ryans, and there are a lot of Ryans on this show, they're just bigger needs. There is a point where you get too much of one thing. There's only so many linebackers that can play, and there's only so many reps. And no matter how good a coach is at managing egos, there are still egos, and you're not going to be able to play all those guys. I don't know how you're going to fully do it now. So I would say no to Tackett, and nobody wanted Tackett in a batter's uniform more than me last year. But you need other spots. You need to fill other holes, and you don't have a Scrooge McDuck NIL vault, right? You can't dive. There's nobody at Wisconsin diving into a Scrooge McDuck vault of NIL money. Like, Wisconsin's NIL department is good. Like, it is solid, trust me. But I just think we have enough linebackers, and resources have to now go somewhere else. It's like in baseball, if you have 6-7 pitchers and you don't have an outfielder and a shortstop, you got to go get the outfielder and shortstop. Okay, let's keep going here. See if there's any more really good. There's a ton of comments. I don't mean to say if there's any more good comments. They're all good comments. Bo Dragon, definitely depth matters. People get hurt. You need backups. That's what separates the blue bloods from the scrubs. I agree. All right. We're going to wrap it up there. Again, a bunch of good comments. I didn't get to them all. I just really want to talk about the quick takeaway from this, what it means for the roster, what kind of player he is. There are some receivers out there. I think my biggest needs now, Smo says, on Wisconsin for sure. Justin Tyler says, what is the comp for Jahiem? Trying to gauge expectations here. I don't know if I have a Badger comp off the top of my head. I need to watch. I got to be honest. I need to watch more film. Like, I've read some of what Arkansas guys said. I watched some highlights and I looked at stats. And So I need to get smarter on him. I don't know if I have a great comp off the top of my head, but I'm not going to blow smoke either and just say, it reminds me of this guy. No, let me think on that and get back on it. We'll do a bigger show, get Justin on. I know he wanted to jump on and talk a little bit about Jahiem Thomas, a comp, maybe what he looks like in this defense. I think the biggest needs now, you desperately need a defensive lineman. You need a receiver, in my opinion. These are my opinions, right? I think you need defensive line. I think you need receiver. I think you can use another corner. And honestly, I think you could use another offensive lineman. So I think there's still multiple positions out there where you can get better, which is why, again, I say, as much as I like tack, I think you got to take that time, that resource, and you got to put it somewhere else now. Let's get better in other areas. But they have completely revamped the linebacker group, and that one's interesting to me. Ryan wondering if Carson Hinsman, the OSU offensive lineman, transfers. It's certainly, you could see it, right? And obviously Wisconsin would be a very interesting landing spot, but did have to see he didn't play great for OSU, and he had some self-awareness things talking on that podcast about I don't know if he'd be a great fit now that we've seen him for a year or two at OSU. All right, we're gonna wrap it there, guys. Don't forget the giveaway show is tonight. If you can tune in, it's just a way for me to say thank you for everything, for you guys joining the show, for you guys watching, supporting, whatever it is. Time is the most valuable thing outside of health, family, that any of us have. So for anybody to give this show even a tiny sliver of your time is incredible. So we give away stuff, right? And that's what we're doing tonight. We're giving away a bunch of Badger swag. Jeez. We're giving away a bunch of Badger swag. All you do, join the show, answer trivia questions, get it for free. That's what it is. So join us tonight, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. With that, you guys are amazing, incredible. So thank you. We're going to have more on this, continue talking the portal, but join us tonight, get some free stuff, hang out. There might be a surprise visitor too. Somebody that has worn the Motion W might be showing up on the show to give away something. So let's talk about it later on Wisconsin. Appreciate all you guys so much.